where we address the art and science of being a successful, God-fearing black man. Stay tuned.
Okay, so because fashion is an art form and not a science, I'm giving you general guidelines. And also because now that you know the royalty that is in you as you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and now you are a fellow heir with Him, then you don't feel like you have to be a slave to fashion in order to compete with somebody else. So there's little things that I do that are probably different than other people because I don't feel like I'm trying to compete in order to find my value in what I'm wearing. So I pay attention to the guidelines, but I add a little flair and a little something different than maybe some other men may or may not do. Right? So sometimes I might wear, and you might see this in Gentleman's Quarterly magazine, that I might wear a little frayed cuff. My cuff may be frayed a little bit, or my collar might be frayed a little bit because there is a select group of men who like a little bit of a fray and they like well-worn garments. Maybe it's just because of sentimental reasons, but I just like that a little bit. So not in every place that's not appropriate, but sometimes a little bit of a roughness, I kind of like that to blend in my own sartorial style. So let me say that word sartorial really just means fashion and the things pertaining to the aesthetics of fashion. Okay? So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's talk about suiting, which is really important. And I think the first thing that's appropriate for me to talk about here is the shoulders. Now, if you notice here, you get a sense here of where my shoulders are. You get a sense of where my shoulders are. And if I take the same line and I go down further down, you'll notice that my shoulders are a lot wider than my waist. And you'll notice here that my waist is defined. You'll see a little bit of pull right here. You can see the fabric is pulling here a little bit here and there because of the defined waist. Right? And that's an important part of a suit, particularly for us men. We're not, as women, where smallest waist is important, but when you talk about athletic men who are in relatively good shape, the line that we see and the line that most women are attracted to when we look at anthropology is this V shape. This V shape. So you see it with wider shoulders and a smaller straight waist. Straight waist. And so those are things that aesthetically is pleasing. So it's important for you to understand that when you're suiting yourself, you want to make sure that the waist is somewhat defined without it being extra tight, but still is defined there. And that's why you see a lot of men, if you watch older movies and things like that where fashion and men's dressing was really important, you'll notice that they'll button the middle button instead of buttoning the top button because they're trying to define that waist line. So that's also important, so you get your shoulders measured, so that will help you to define what suit you should get. But now you see the suit that I'm wearing here, it defines so much in the waist, it's because this is called an athletic cut suit, and that's really important. If you work out, if you exercise, you know, you stay in relatively good shape, you don't have a bare belly, you'll notice that you'll get a suit with the right shoulder length. It'll fit your shoulders, but it won't fit your waist, right? There'll be a whole lot of space. It's almost like your coat will be like this. You're buttoning it up and it's still like this wide. I don't know if you can see it. Like this wide. And that's because you have an athletic build. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Now, if you have a little bit of a belly and so on and so forth, there are ways to get around that. And you'll see a lot of men will wear, with a big belly, they will wear suit that's tailored in very tightly, so it brings in the waist, but they're wearing a three-piece. In other words, they're wearing a vest, or a waistcoat, as they would call it in the UK. They're wearing that, and that would help, that helps to define a waist a little bit, and to kind of hide the belly. And sometimes they'll wear a darker color waistcoat or vest, so that they can, so it helps to define that. So if you have a little bit of a belly, a good thing to wear is a three-piece. If you don't have a belly, you still wear a three-piece. It still looks good, open or no open, but you just make sure that the waist is defined. So that's just something about that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the suit, but I want to talk about the shirt because this will help you a lot. Now, of course, there are different collars, different kinds of collars on any shirt that you would wear. So this is a little bit of a spread collar, and it's still pointing at the end. So it's a little bit of like a British spread collar mixed with the American pinpoint collar at the end here. I'm talking about this thing that's American here. All right. So and when you get that called a gentleman gets dressed up, and those people in the United States, if you go to Joseph A. Banks and their website, they may have something there. I'm not necessarily supporting that organization, but I had that book. I purchased it many years ago. It's a really good book in addition to some other books I have. I think it's a must for you. Just give you a general idea of different kinds of suits, different kinds of dress, what are the standards of dress. And it's a very helpful book, and when I mentor men, I usually encourage them to get that book. Okay, so going about shirt. Now you notice sometimes that some men, I'm putting a finger in between my collar and my neck, and it goes in easily. All right, so it's not that tight, but it looks close. Now you'll notice some men, you can take 2 fingers and put it in here, and they can easily place 2 fingers in right here, and that means the shirt collar is just too big. And you know that, because then what they try to do to adjust it is to pull the tight real much, and they're almost strangling themselves with the tie, trying to get it so that they'll adjust the collar. Now, how do I know a collar when I go in that it's a shirt that's right for me if I'm buying off the rack? I can get a collar, I can get a shirt made for me, and I encourage you to do that if you can do that, but it's not absolutely necessary. There are a lot of shirts that are very nicely made today. So there's 2 things. One thing is getting your neck measured, right? And you can go to any good department store, any decent department store, John Lewis, Macy's, Nordstrom's, and you can get your neck measured by any decent salesman in a suiting area, and you can get your sleeve measured, right, from your shoulder bone down to this knuckle here. And this knuckle is very important. The knuckle in your wrist is very important, because when you're getting your suit length, you're going to want your suit length to go, the sleeve of your suit to go about here, right here on your knuckle bone. Now your shirt length, particularly if you're wearing French cuff, you want it to be a little further than your knuckle bone, right? And you may make adjustments depending on who you are and what your tastes are. You may make adjustments for your watch and what watch you wear. Okay? So remember that knuckle bone is where you want to be as a general rule for your suit, because most gentlemen are going to wear French cuff. Now today I'm wearing barrel cuff, which means that this buttoned here is called a barreled cuff. Now I'm wearing a barreled cuff today on this suit, but I wear French cuff most of the time. I really enjoy wearing French cuff. It's probably the only jewelry that I wear besides my wedding band. When you're wearing French cuff, you're wearing cufflinks. So you want them to go a little further down than your knuckle bone. You want your shirt to go down there. So you want that length to make sure that it goes down there. Okay, you want to make sure your shirt goes down a little bit past the knuckle bone. And that your jacket suit, your suit jacket rather, stops right at the knuckle bone there. Okay? So that's important about that. Now, the other thing that I want to mention as well too, in suiting, is the other measurements you're going to want to have made is a measurement of your waist. That becomes very important. You want the measurement of your waist. And you're going to want the measurement of your inseam. So that means the tailor is going to take his ruler and measure from down here on the floor with your shoes on. So this is really important for you to wear the shoes. I'm not doing this now, but you want to wear the shoes your dress shoes that you're going to wear, and I'm going to talk about shoes at another time. But you're going to wear the dress shoes you're going to wear there, so that he can measure there, so he can get the break right. Now this is important. Now a break is what you see in my leg. What you see in my leg, right here. I stand up. You can see there's a break here, and there's a break there. You can see the break a little bit better now. Now, this is what is called, right here I have one break. You can see that right there, especially in my left leg, which looks like your right leg to you, that there's one break there. Now it's up to you to adjust where you want the break. Some people have a double break, but I don't like that. Some people have no break at all. For example, if you watch Mad Men, you'll see that the men, their pants go straight down and it just hovers right above their shoes. And that means that there's no break at all in their pants leg. Right? So it's really important for you to decide whether you like a break or not. Now the other thing that I want to talk about is you want to decide whether you want a cuff or not. So these are cuffed. These used to be, when I bought this suit was very old, but when I bought this suit I used to love cuffs. You know, my father is a fashion designer and I didn't, he was against cuffs, but I really loved cuffs because it was just the fashion at the time. And so I wear cuffs from time to time. So this suit has cuffs in it and you decide how long or how big the cuff would be. And a good guide for that is to look in that book that I mentioned, or you can look in Gentleman's Quarterly. They'll give you a good example of the size of cuffs if you want to wear a cuff. And when is appropriate to wear cuffs and shouldn't. Like in formal wear, there is no cuff. You don't wear a cuff, generally speaking, in formal wear. It's not appropriate. So you want to decide if you want a cuff in your suits, and you may decide you want that for a little bit of whimsicalness in your fashion, or maybe you don't. So you have that cuff. That's important. All right. Another thing I want to talk about as well when we're talking about dressing up, before I get into a little more detail about suiting, is the waistcoat. When I'm talking about the vest or the waistcoat, you'll notice that that is pulled. And you can't see it, but there's ties in the back here, and I've pulled them so that it helps to define that waist. Nothing baggy, because the idea is to take a suit of clothes that is made maybe off the rack and make it look like something that you spent thousands of dollars on. Now this is still a very nice brand of suit that I'm wearing, but I've made it look better than it is because I've had the waist taken in. I've had the waist taken in to give me that defined waist. I've done that. I've had the waist taken in to give me that defined waist. And you can see that here. Right? But off the rack, the sleeves were not that big. And that's important, because if I have a coat I'm wearing and the sleeves are ginormous like that, I mean without me pulling it obviously, and they're ginormous like that, then it's going to look too big. So the sleeves have to be relatively good size. So you see that sleeves give room enough to show some definition. You can see a little bit that there's a little bit of muscle in here. You can see that, but it's not so big that you wouldn't see any muscle at all. But it's just to give you a sense of it. And that's important for especially those of you who I know who work out a lot, and you have big triceps and biceps and so forth. You want to make sure that it shows a little bit of definition but not too much. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying you're buying off the rack. You're not getting something tailor-made from you from scratch. You pick out the fabric and all that kind of stuff. You can do that as well too, but maybe we'll discuss that another time. But I'm just saying, buying something off the rack, saving a lot of money doing it. So that means you need to find a good tailor who will help you to do this. Take it in, and remember, you're going to have a discussion with your tailor, and you have to just tell him what you want. So if you tell him, I want this taken in here, then you have to do that. If you tell him, I want this taken in here, sometimes I go to one of my tailors and they'll argue with me about this, but that's just the way I am. I remember Frank Sinatra, reading about Frank Sinatra, that he always had his collar, his jacket sleeve taken down to his wrist bone, and he would argue with his tailor a lot about that. But the man always wore cufflinks, and he wanted to be able to show his cufflinks, and there's no good wearing that. And that's just a sign of something being tailored to you. If the sleeve comes down to here, you know that suit was not made for that person, right? So the idea is to make something tailored for you. The other thing that we're looking for, which you can see here in this suit, which is one of the things I love about this suit, is that it drapes. Now if you see drapes hanging down, long drapes hanging down on a window, you'll notice that it comes down and it just falls down, it hangs. It's not pulled up or tightened on. So as you'll notice here, you notice I don't button the West. This is just a general rule in the West, that you don't button the last button of your waistcoat or your vest. That's a general rule of a gentleman. Go into that, you can look that up on Google and figure out why, but the point is you just don't generally do that, okay? So you'll notice here that I am wearing this shirt and I have braces, otherwise known as suspenders. Now this is important when you get a suit made. You get your trousers, you're going to get your trousers taken in to fit you, right? You can get your trousers in to fit your waist. And then the suspenders help you to drape your pants so that they're not tightened by a belt and squinched, and it looks rough, as opposed to just hanging there. So it's supposed to help you to have the suit drape your body, to be draped over your body, as opposed to forced to be placed into position by a belt, which is always sliding down and you got to pull it up and you see all this kind of stuff. A gentleman never has to do that if he has suspenders, if he has braces on. He never has to be pulling up nothing, doing all this kind of wiggling stuff that you see women do, because he has suspenders or he has braces to brace it. Now the other thing that I want to mention to you before we talk about matching shirt and tie and all those other kind of good things is your shirt collar. Now your shirt collar here will have, and I'm going to talk about this a bit more when we go down there. Your shirt collar will have, get it, tie bars. We'll talk a little bit more about tie bars, but it's important for you to get a set of tie bars. These are brass. I invested in getting brass because they last for a long time, and the plastic ones can bend and be worn out and so on and so forth. If you get brass, they last a lifetime. You can pass them down to your sons. Really good. No, I don't know. I can do this, but anyway, I'm just not going to do that now for the time's sake. So that's an important investment that you should have. Some people even like the straight tie bars that go underneath the tie. And that's up to you. That's a fashion thing if you like to do them or not. And then the other thing I want to talk about as well too, before I forget, and that is matching the size of your tie, the width of your tie, to your lapel. It's really important. So the lapel on this jacket is not that big. The lapel on this suit is not that big. So it doesn't really make sense for me to have a tie that's this wide, particularly with this vest going here. Then I have no opportunity to see the background of the shirt, as opposed to this in contrast to the tie, in contrast to the vest or the waistcoat, in contrast to the lapel. So it's important that you have, you balance the width of your tie with the lapel. If I had very big lapels like this, and I have some suits that have very big lapels like that, I wear a bigger tie with it, because, especially if I'm not wearing a waistcoat or a vest, there'll be a lot of space opened in here, and some of that can be adjusted by how close you have your tailor bring this in, but that's important. So you want to make sure that your tailor does good work and can work out properly. And so you can look at some of the things that your tailor has done, if he has pictures or he has other people who are coming to him. That's important, and to make sure the prices are right for you. And you can negotiate that price with your tailor, and that's a really important thing. That relationship with the tailor is almost like a gentleman and his butler. It's a very close relationship, and you need to make sure that you're comfortable with the person. The person will do as you ask. It's like going to a hairdresser who you say, hey, I only want to take off an inch, and they cut off your hair bald. I don't care how good or famous the hairdresser is. It's not giving you the look that you asked for. They're not respecting your wishes, and your tailor needs to do that. Okay, so let's talk about something else now. Now, some of the things that we're talking about in fashion, which are really important here, is you'll notice here. Now, these are some of my favorite. I brought these out as an example. These are some of my favorite cufflinks because they were my father's, and I love to wear them. And you will notice that I match these cufflinks when I wear these cufflinks with this watch, which is also linked to my father. So as a result, they match. There's a gold frame around this watch, and these are obviously gold here. And so as a result, it is important as a rule generally that you match your cufflinks with the watch. And you'll notice I do that as well too. So the watch I normally wear all the time is this silver watch here. And that matches my band, my wedding band, and the cufflinks I wear. So I have some of these cufflinks here. These are some of my favorite cufflinks to wear with this, because they're just everyday cufflinks. They're not cufflinks that I would wear if I'm getting up and I'm going somewhere. I'm going to a formal event or something like that. But as every day, if I'm going to a business meeting or I'm going to work or something like that, where I'm dressed in a suit, I'm going to a meeting, I would wear these cufflinks here. But they match the watch. You can see that here. You match the watch. So when you're looking for cufflinks, that's something really important for you to think about, is your watch. These little nice knitted cufflinks are also a nice thing to add some color and some whimsy. You know, just adds a little bit of, you know, you're not taking yourself too seriously. And I kind of like that, and I think that's important when you're dressing up, because you don't want to go overboard. The other thing I want to say is about a pen. When you get dressed up, it's really important for you to have a pen, a decent pen that's not going to spill any ink on you or something like that. But a man should be dependent on that he's resourceful enough to be able to have a pen to write with. So if you make a small investment, maybe it costs you $5 or £5, or maybe it costs you 15 pounds. You know, this is just a simple Parker pen that I bought. It came in a set with a fountain pen that I like to use as well too. And just nice to have a simple pen for me to keep in my breast pocket, and to keep it comes in this. I keep it in this little pouch when I put it in my breast pocket, just in case if there is some kind of emergency and it spills, it will not mess up my suit. So that's important. All right. And dry cleaning is important. Find a good dry cleaner who actually takes care of your suit, who presses it well, and that once it's pressed, it doesn't have to be pressed again. And the other thing that I wanted to mention that I failed to bring in here, and that was a steamer. You don't iron your suit generally, particularly if you're getting it pressed regularly at dry cleaners. You want to use a steamer, and you can steam out all the wrinkles out of it, and you don't have to worry about pressing it. If there is an emergency, just a tip, and you have to press your suit, what you want to do is to take a cotton cloth like this. I mean, you might have a white handkerchief that I encourage you to buy, because every gentleman should have a handkerchief. But you would put this over the garment and then press it, particularly if it's a dark suit. Otherwise, you get that shine, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, right? So if it's a dark colored suit, but even if it isn't, you put it over there and then you put on the steam so that you can steam it out. But remember, there is no crease lines, there is no press lines in arms, sleeves. The only press lines you'll see is in the legs. That's the only place that it should be on the suit. Okay? That's really important. Okay, so let's move right along. So I just brought a few examples here, and I just want to take you through some basics. So if you take a look at this suit here, this is a linen suit. Alright? So I've tried to set up some examples here. This is linen, this is cotton or khaki, and this is wool, and this is a cashmere top coat. This is all important set of your kind of uniform. So the reason why I brought out these different kinds of fabrics is because I wanted to show you linen, because if you're in a hot climate and you still need to dress up, then linen is just really important. But it needs to be tailored properly, or it's an absolute mess. And there's different degrees of linen. You know it's going to be wrinkled a little bit, so that wrinkleness should be incorporated into the design so it doesn't look bad. Like this, you can't even tell that it's linen right now, really, to be honest, because the linen is incorporated into the design so that it doesn't wrinkle, so the wrinkles are incorporated into the design, right? But if I wore this wool suit in Jamaica or in Alabama in the height of summer, I'd be in a desperate situation. Khaki is as well good to take the heat as well too, because of the natural fibers, and it's not as warm as wool, but it's important for you to think about. So when you're thinking about that suit that you're gonna wear, your first suit you're gonna buy, your second or your third suit as a real suit you're gonna invest in, you want to think of a suit lasting for 10, 15, maybe even 20 years if you take really good care of it and you have a lot of other suits to wear so you're not wearing it out. And so if you're doing that, you need to think about it as an investment. It's something that should last a long time, so you don't go crazy. You know what I mean? If you're going to buy a red suit, you really have to think long and hard about it, because in 10 years that red suit might look ridiculous, particularly how it's tailored. Now if it's a well-tailored red suit, you know what? It'll probably still look good in 10 years. You might not be able to wear it anywhere, but it'll still probably look nice. Okay? And if you did find out an event where that was appropriate to wear that red suit, it would probably look good. Alright? So I try and stay, and this is my personal taste, I try and stay away from things that are real fads, because literally the investment that you put in suits, going to a tailor and getting all the shirts and ties and match and things and so forth, you put that investment in it and then it's going to be gone in 5 years you can't wear it, or 3 years you can't wear it. It's just ridiculous, you know? Unless you just want to waste money, then that's fine. But you can get decent shoes to wear for different events and they'll look good. So I always think a khaki suit is really good to have. I think a linen suit is good to have, and a wool or dark colored suit is really important for you to have, because you can wear it to a business meeting. And this suit that I would encourage you to buy first, if you had a choice, is to get a navy or dark colored suit or gray. So I would say navy or gray. And the reason why I would say navy or gray is because you can wear it to a wedding. It's appropriate to wear it to a wedding. It's also appropriate to wear it to a funeral. And it's also appropriate to wear it to a business meeting. You will look appropriate and you look fine in all of those things. And if it's tailored properly, you can stand before common men and kings without any shame. Okay, so that's fabric. Now, matching suits. So the rule for matching a suit. This is a general rule for matching the suit. This is a little bit of a working suit, but the idea is that you would match the tie to the suit first. So you match the tie to the suit. So you match the tie to the suit. So when I'm in the store, I will often take my suit with me. After I've purchased my suit, I'll take my suit with me. Maybe I bought it at a different store or whatever, and I've gone someplace that has a lot of ties, and the price is right at that place. So I'll go there and I will take my suit with me in a garment bag, and then I will bring and I'll match the different ties to it, especially a place that has maybe like 500 ties or stuff like that, or 1,000 ties. Some of those places, I know you know some of those places. And you take your suit with you. You match it there. So for me, that was very good. Now, once I found the tie, okay, I like this tie. Now I match the tie to a shirt. Now it looks easy because I'm doing it, but it can be quite challenging sometimes to find the right thing. And as I match the tie, you see this tie has very small little white dots all the way in it. Can you see that? You see the small dots? So what I've done is something a little whimsical that you may or may not perceive. But I've done little, almost polka dots with a checkered, which is something that you're not really supposed to do. So that's a little bit what I say is whimsical, because I'm kind of breaking the rules a little bit. So, but you can't really see it until you get really close. So it's like a secret joke I have. But the point I'm trying to make is that you match the tie to the suit, and you match the shirt to the tie. So now when I put it all together, you can see here. Now I'll show you a little trick here. If you take the tie that you're looking at in the store, you might have to take that little clip off that they have on there, and you take it like this over your hand, flip it under like this, grab inside like that. There, that gives you a sense of what the tie is going to look like when it's knotted. And then I put it in. That will tell me what the suit is going to look like. And then you generally match the kerchief, silk kerchief, to the suit, just to bring a little light to the suit. And for me, this was something that I liked. This brings a little lightness to the suit. It's not matching the tie exactly, because that's not what kerchiefs are for. They're almost something similar to a flower a gentleman would wear as a lapel, right? So they're not matched exactly like that. So that's one example there. I hope that you can appreciate that. I want to give you another example of a linen suit, this linen suit. So again, want to add a little color. So I match this tie to this suit. You can see the white in the lines go almost perfectly with this suit color, but it's a totally different color perspective than you would imagine with the suit, right? And then I put this color with it because it matches the tie. It matches the tie. This bow tie matches the tie. So you think of the backdrop as your shirt. Your shirt is the backdrop and the tie matches on it. Now, as far as the kerchief, I went with this kind of kerchief to bring out that green. And I love paisley. It's something designed specifically for men. It's a manly kind of symbol, and you can look up the history if you Google paisley, P-A-I-S-L-E-Y. Right, so I like the different colors on this, the different color shades of green. It's really attractive to me. So, and it adds a little bit of panache. So I put in the kerchief like that. Sometimes if I'm My dad would probably not agree with this, but I think this is kind of fun. And I used to do it a lot when I was younger. I don't do it as much now. But I would do it backwards like that and have this like that. It's a little bit wild. And if you don't want to be that ostentatious, then you might push it down in there like this and just have a little bit of it floating up there like that. But generally I just do it the way my dad likes, which is like this. Right? But to each man his own. So that's just that's an option of that. The other thing I wanted to show you in this suit here, which is a wool suit and it's a three-piece suit, is another option here. And this is a little different. And this is what you would see generally a man would wear with his collar opened. With his collar open, and this would be here. You see it sometimes. And sometimes if I'm going to an opera, like on the weekday, a weekday opera, I'm going to the theater like in Washington DC and I'm going to dress nicely, I would, but I don't want to wear a tie and whatever. I just want to do something a little different. I will wear this sometimes. And this is kind of the forerunner before the tie, and it's a scarf because that's what ties were at first, before they were ties as we know them. So I wear it like this, put it here, and sometimes I'll put a little pin in there just to hold it tight there like that, and then this would go with your collar opened, right? And you can find this at your finer suiting and haberdasheries and so forth will carry these, and it's just a very nice thing to have. And I will wear that with this suit here and a white shirt. And I have to say, if you don't know what to wear, particularly if you're going to wear a suit that you want to wear to business meetings, to weddings, to all different occasions, and you want to look nice, a good white shirt, really good quality white shirt, is something that you just must have, particularly for business, right? Because most businessmen will not wear a colored shirt. Right? That's just a uniform for businessmen. Okay, but they'll do it sometimes, but that's generally the rule. And sometimes a good bow tie just is just nice. You know, it's simple and it's nice to the point. I love that bow tie. And the other thing sometimes to wear when you're going out with your friends, sometimes in the evening, or you're going to date or something, is a little bit of scarf. It's a little bit, little uber fashionable, I guess. Different than what is really most of my clothes, which is, you know, very strict to the lines. But I think this is fun to wear sometimes, and you just tie it around. You've seen that before, so I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail about that. One of the last things I wanted to show you about, to talk to you about, is a good handkerchief. Not a kerchief, a handkerchief. And I think every man should have, every gentleman should have one of these. If you have to blow your nose or something like that, you have something appropriate. You're not carrying around tissue paper in your pocket or something like that, because we're not women, are we? Okay, so I think that those things are appropriate. The last thing I want to, last couple of things I want to show you is investing in a good grooming brush. This is a grooming brush. This is my father's, so it's special to me. It's really old, but it's to brush off the suit with. So you brush your suit off with. You might see that sometimes in old movies, just to brush off. Sometimes there's like little dust and specks. You just brush it off before you go somewhere. And it also has this thing to take off lint and things of that nature. You know, you can get those plastic things. You can get those plastic things, but they don't work as well. And then it has a shoe horn on it, which is something that every man should have, because if you don't use a shoe horn, you'll end up wearing out your shoes. And the last thing I want to talk to you about as well is a top coat. In the beginning of this video, I was wearing a top coat, and this is one of my regular everyday top coats that I like. And I want to show you something specific about this top coat, and that is that you'll notice how it fits my shoulders and my waist. I'm not talking about the fabric, I'm talking about how it fits my shoulders and my waist. I want you to see this. And when I close it, you can see that it's fitted or tailored, and this is the kind of look that you want to have in your top coat. So I'm warm, obviously. You can take the rain, obviously, but you can see my shoulders. And that's why it's called a top coat, because it's just like your jacket, but just a little bit bigger, slightly bigger. And that's an important thing for you to have in your top coat, because if you're going somewhere, you're going to have to wear something that's appropriate, that's not not shorter than your coat. You know, you have to get a coat to go with the other things. And you can find some of these. Sometimes you don't have to go. You can go. Vintage is very big now in fashion, and you can go to a vintage store and find a very nice top coat that is that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, right? As a matter of fact, this is vintage as well too. This is a very old cashmere, and I love it. It's one of my favorite coats. Anyway, so I hope that gives you a good idea. If you have any questions pertaining to of a sartorial matter or of a biblical matter, you know how to send them in, and I hope that you'll do that. And I hope that you'll like us, that you'll leave comments down below, that you will share it with many of your friends, or many of your male friends on Facebook, and that you will subscribe to our videos. I hope this was helpful to you on a lot of different levels, and you find it edifying. And so, as my final words always are, I want to say to you that finally, I beseech you, brethren, watch ye, stand fast in the faith, let all you do be done with love, be manly, quick you like men, be strong. God bless you.